Welcome to Ready Set RC, and today we are going to do our final thoughts video on the Team Corrali Asuga XLR. For you viewers who are new to the channel, welcome. This is where we do our final thoughts on the unboxing and the several runs that we've done up until this point. If you go back in the channel, we have a playlist for the Team Corrali Asuga, and there are about maybe 8 various videos on there, either shorts or full-length videos, running videos, unboxing, size comparisons to this buggy. So all of those types of topics I will not be discussing on this video. I'm primarily just going to be speaking about how this buggy performed and what my thoughts are of this buggy. So for you guys who have been following through on the playlist of the Team Corrali Asuga XLR to this point, thank you, and I commend you guys, and I really appreciate that you've been sticking along with the channel all the way through. For you guys that are new, this is a good time for you to catch up on those videos and get a full understanding of where I am to this point with the Asuga. So in typical fashion, I would talk about the electronics, whereas on the controller, the ESC, the motor, the servo, and the receiver. But this is the almost ready to run. So basically, this is going to be my experiences with the electronics that I've put into this RC. For those of you that are not familiar with the 2 flavors that the Asuga comes in, it comes in as a roller, which is the one that you're seeing here today, and it also comes with the Team Corrali electronics. Next, we'll talk about the drivetrain, handling and suspension, durability, workability, support, who is the Team Corrali Asuga for, is it worth it, and would I buy it again? Before I go into the next segment, I thought it'd probably be wise to put a list of items I would recommend doing to this RC rather than having them all kind of lined up into the different sections. So I'm going to touch on them really quick in this new segment for this RC. So definitely I would recommend, as I mentioned before, going with either a Max 6 or 160 amp ESC paired up with the Team Corrali 2050 kV motor and putting a heat sink in fan on that motor. Definitely is a great option. I think you're going to get good power out of it. As for the servo, we're working with about 529 ounces of torque. I don't know if you need that much, but I think anything that's above 400 ounces of torque should be more than enough for this buggy. If you're going to use this ESC in this buggy, your leads from the ESC are not going to be long enough, so you're going to need an extension to run to the receiver box. Wheels and tires, I strongly recommend the Team Corrali Skeeter wheels and tires for this buggy. Center diff, I would suggest going up to 500K diff fluid in the center diff. Velcro on the sides to secure the body, it's an excellent option. I went with 3M, maybe a little bit too strong, but a little Velcro on the sides secures the body down, prevents it from flapping a little bit in the air when you're hitting those jumps. And lastly, probably the most needed upgrade for most people, serrated nuts on the wheels. Team Corrali does not send their RCs with serrated nuts, so definitely upgrade your wheel nuts to serrated nuts on there so they lock in tightly onto the wheels and your nuts are not backing off for you. So first up, electronics. Let me get the body off so you guys can see what we got going on. That's what I got going on for electronics. What I'm running now is a Power Hobby high volt servo. I like the Team Corrali motors running in my RC, so I do run the Team Corrali motor, but I'm running it with a fan thrown on top of that. And then I'm running a Spectrum 160 amp ESC. I find that I like this setup a lot. Normally I would throw in a Max 6 ESC on here, but I had this ESC sitting around and it was just waiting to be thrown into this vehicle. This setup, I get just the amount of power I need. I do not run this on 8S. Now the ESC is rated for 8S, but the motor is not. It is a 6S rated motor. This on 6S, all day, every day, just the amount of power you need. Yeah, I strongly recommend it, guys. And for you guys that, I'll talk about this later, for you guys that like to tune your diffs, I love this setup because what you'll tend to find out is that with the Team Corrali setup has a tons of power. Their ESCs are decent enough, but I just wanted to take this almost ready to run to the next level. And that's what I got out of this. I mean, you have so much control in the air, I noticed with the 160, and it's not overly powered or anything like that. It's just very controllable with a 160 amp ESC. Stick a heat sink and a fan on there and you'll be good. And I wanted to try something different for the servo. That's why I went with this Power Hobby 720 MBL. I talk about all the specs in my prior videos, but I have to say, guys, with this setup and that servo, it's excellent. For electronics, this is the way I like to set them up. For each person that's going to be buying almost ready to run, you're going to set it up the way that you want it to. Some of you are going to want to run it on the 8S, so you're going to stick a huge Coke can in there. For me, this is perfect. This was perfect for my run and my setups. As for the receiver and transmitter that I was throwing in here, I was having some problems, and mainly most of it was self-inflicted. Having some problems with the receivers that I was throwing in here, and eventually I ended up setting on my Futaba setup. Yeah, I had a little issues with my receivers, and once I settled on the right receiver, I was good. It has nothing to do with the controllers or the systems that I use. I thought they were all fine. It's just that I was putting some hokey things in there, and I would strongly not recommend them at all. Drivetrain. We're going to talk about the front differential, center differential, and rear differential. Center drive shafts, rear drive shafts, and the front drive shafts when we're talking about drivetrain. I had no breakages when it comes to the drive shafts, and that speaks for rear, center, and front. Differentials, no issues with the front differential, no issues with the rear differential. I didn't even tune the diff oil in the rear front. I think they're tuned right from what I saw from Team Corrali, and I tend to do that with most of my Team Corralis. I like how the front and the rear are tuned for my driving habits, but I always tend to tune the center, especially in the last few Team Corrali RCs that I have, because I think the center is a little bit light for my driving habits, so I tend to thicken it up a little bit. This one I went a little bit different. I wanted to put 500,000 weight diff oil in here, but I did not have 500,000 weight. I had to do, once again, my hokiness. Took a little bit of a mil, took a little bit of 250, and whatever that comes out to is what I got in there. And I like it. I like how it performed. It's not too thick where it's locking it up. It's perfect. A lot of control with that fluid in there. I will say that the only thing that I had a problem with is probably how, and I'll talk more about that when I speak about handling and suspension, is how these wheels and tires would perform with that fluid setup in the center. But I like this fluid. I like the fluid setup, how it is front, center, and rear. And once again, as I mentioned, no durability issues. Handling and suspension. Now, the one thing I must mention, guys, is that the suspension within the Team Corrali vehicles are set up just right. I've put maybe 8 to 10 packs in this RC at this point, and it is still butter smooth as if I first took it out of the box. No problems with handling, and suspension in regards to the shocks. Now the linkages on this, they're set. There are no adjustments on the links. That's for camber and toe in the front, and also camber and toe in the rear. There are no adjustments when it comes to that on this buggy. Now, there are sway bars in the front and the rear, and I think that does help because there is zero rollover with this. This thing performs very well, takes the turns on power very well. As I mentioned prior, the tires, I feel, with the power that I have going in this, plus how the center diff is tuned, I did not like how these were performing for me off-road. On-road, I loved them. I thought these performed very well on-road, tarmac areas, perfect, no issues. But I didn't like them off-road in the gravelly, sandy, low grass areas that I run. I actually liked these. And what are these? These are the Team Corrali wheels and tires. This, on that buggy, amazing. There's a little bit of an offset on there too, and that is the other piece of it too. It gave me a little bit of a wider stance on it. I love these. And if I could recommend a set of wheels and tires that you want to put on your Asuga, definitely is going to be the Team Corrali Skeeter wheels and tires. Strongly recommend them. Off-road, it performed perfect with those wheels and tires. Handling, rotation in the air, control, everything. I mean, just gave me the mass I was looking for to be able to do pretty much anything I want in the air with those wheels and tires. Durability. This thing is a tank, guys. With the spring steel you have on the out drives, these thick drive shafts in here, beefy shocks, thick suspension arms that are on here. This thing is a tank. And just to give you an idea of the chassis, I drive on grass, so you're not going to see that much. You're not going to see really any scratches or anything going on the chassis, but the chassis is straight. No issues. No issues whatsoever. Now, for weight, this thing has got some girth to it, but I gotta say, guys, durability with all the bracing and everything you see in here, this buggy holds up very well. I almost prefer, I know they don't call this 8 scale, but I almost prefer if 8 scale buggies were this instead of what we have today. This size is perfect for taking anywhere. It just handles and performs well. So I strongly will say that the durability of this buggy, on par. Excellent. Workability. The only ding that I will give this is that I wish the screws that were in here were a little bit better quality. I find that the screws tend to strip out very easily, and I'm using MIP bits, guys. Most people will tell you that. I'm actually going to show you it. I'm using MIP bits. Especially when I was working on the center diff, most of the screws here are fine, but when you get to the stuff that has Loctite on there, you're going to have to put a little bit of heat because there's a ton of Loctite on those screws for the diff, for the center diff. And afterwards, the screws will strip on you. The other screws on here, I didn't have an issue with. Only the center diff screws were the ones that I had a problem with. Otherwise, this is a pretty easy laid out buggy. You got to take out quite a bit of things to get to the center diff because of the bracing, but that's expected. You're going to have to remove some things to get to it. Putting in the electronics, I didn't find that to be a problem. Support. Now, I can't really speak on support, guys, because I didn't run into any issues with this. I did not have to reach out to Team Corrali for any support or any questions or anything that I have with this vehicle. I thought this vehicle performed well. That I have to say, it's one of the most durable RCs that Team Corrali makes. So I didn't really have to reach out to them when it comes to durability. Who is the Team Corrali Asuga XLR for? I'm going to put this somewhere in a 3 to a 4 star when it comes down to the level of this RC. And the reason why I say that, probably the RTR I would put more in the 3 range, mainly because of its size, its power, the capabilities. That's why I would kind of put it in a 3. For the almost ready to run, I'm going to put it in a 4. It's for a guy who's familiar with wrenching, knows where to work around, knows what power they want to put in there, not just throw in 8S to say they want to throw in 8S, but they're throwing in things that are going to work well for the Asuga and not just blow out diffs on the first run. So I say that maybe the almost ready to run, I'd probably put it more as a 4-star user. And for the ready to run, we're going to stick that around 3 stars. For those of you that are not familiar with the star system, 1 star goes to the user that's a novice, a noob, never had an RC before. 2 stars, you've had maybe a couple of RCs, you're going kind of staying within that 10th scale realm. 3 stars, I think you're going up to the larger size RCs, ready to runs. You're a little bit more familiar with the RCs. You probably haven't done that much wrenching, but you're familiar with 8 scale. You're familiar with RCs and running RCs and lipo packs and everything like that. 4 stars, I'm going to kind of put you in that professional realm. You're in that part where you've done wrenching, you've owned a few 8 scales. You may be willing to own a 5th scale at some point. And for 5th level RC enthusiasts, you've done it all. You own large, you own small, you've done wrenching, you've tore cars, you've torn your RCs apart, put them back together, modifications all over the place. You know a lot about KV and power systems and lipos. You just know quite a bit in the hobby that you're able to provide that knowledge to other people. And I kind of consider those individuals 5-star users within the hobby community. Is it worth it? Team Corrali Asuga XLR. I'm going to speak on the roller edition because that's what I have. I think it's going for now about maybe $379, somewhere in that ballpark. I gotta say, guys, it's literally a joke at that price. Is it worth it? Yes, it's worth it. You know, for all of the durability pieces that you get in here, as I said, the beefy suspension arms, the big bore shocks, the spring steel throughout the system, the thick drive shafts, the thick shock towers, all of this durability that they put in this, the bracing, all this durability that they put into this buggy, it's worth it, guys. It is solid. It is a solid platform. And the fact that you can tailor it the way that you want, pending with the electronics, it's just a great platform to own. And at $379 US, it's a no-brainer, guys. It's a no-brainer to own the Almost Ready to Run. Now, I won't speak on the Ready to Run. I don't own it. I can't speak to if that's a good value or not. But the Almost Ready to Run, the roller, it's worth its weight in gold, and it's a solid option for you to pick up. Now, would I buy it again? Now, I'm changing this segment up for those of you that have watched my Final Thoughts videos before, and I'm going to put it in 3 categories: ignore it, wish list it, or buy it. And this is definitely a buy it. I would strongly buy this again at that price point every day of the week. But we're going to leave it here. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Check us on Instagram for the latest posts to the channel. This is Ready Set RC signing out. Thanks again, guys.